Okay. I think we're back. Let's see.
Says it's waiting for you.
Waiting.
Waiting.
There we go. I think we're back now.
Yay!
Sorry about that, everyone. I have no idea what happened.
Hope we didn't lose everyone.
I'm just gonna repost the link on Twitter and stuff just in case.
Wibbler.
I totally lost my train of thought in what I was saying too. Dang it.
I'm sorry.
Oh, so annoying. Okay, we're back. Okay, Shadow's here again. Sorry, y'all, for the issues. We are back. I have no idea what happened there. My internet, I guess, just cut out. What was I saying anyway?
We were talking about the last thing I heard you say was concerning Camila making the mistake of booking a wisdom tooth surgery the day before.
Right, yeah. So, Camila takes Willow's advice, right, and goes through her mistakes, which is some of them are very funny, right? Like the wisdom tooth one and the what was the other one? I've totally lost my train of thought. I apologize.
She was talking about how
Her wisdom tooth surgery before the wedding was really funny.
she
The road
JFK.
rage and the principal was really funny, right? The pyramid scheme, right? The pyramid scheme that she did for 3 years was really funny. But then I was talking a little bit, right, about how Camila has this line now, right, where she says, I was convinced we should move to Gravesfield for that hospital, and we all know how that happened, right? And
that's like, oof.
Yeah, that's a big one, right? And I was talking a little bit before the stream got cut off that hold on, I want to make sure that people know we're here.
Shadow knows we're here.
Shadow knows we're here at least. So thank you, Shadow, for finding your way back.
Shadow and Robin love us.
Thank you, Robin, for checking again. I really appreciate it. Okay, anyway, what I was saying. So yeah, we've tackled this idea. We've tackled this this subject of Manny's death and Manny's passing from different angles on the show, right? Like we've seen Luce's grieving and kind of what that looks like and how she's still kind of grappling with that loss. She's still kind of grappling with like being okay with that loss. For her, like she feels like it's something that she needs to like be over at this point now, right? So we've kind of seen that angle from Luce, but we never really got to see too much of what Camila's process for her grief was like, right? Like we talked a little bit about it in the last special, right? About how Camila is kind of dealing with her grief, at least in a somewhat healthy way. She's obviously still missing her husband and loves him, but at very least has this acceptance that he's gone and at very least is dealing with her grief in a healthy way. But we kind of see now like the depth of what that grief really looks like for Camila, right? And how she still blames herself essentially, right? For her husband's passing, and maybe even to an extent blames herself for everything that has happened in the show, right? Like I was convinced we should move to Gravesfield. And if they didn't move to Gravesfield, then like what could that have happened, right? Like would Luce have even ended up in this situation, right? So there's a lot of parallels between Luce and Camila in that way too, right? Where both of these characters are sort of blaming themselves for their mistakes, maybe too harshly, but then they take on that responsibility, right, to correct those mistakes, and how Camila takes on this responsibility to rectify the mistakes that she made with her daughter, right? And we talked in previous streams about Camila's self-reflection with her grief and how, or sorry, not her grief, her guilt with what happened with Luz, and how we've kind of seen that guilt pop up throughout the entire special, you know, when she saw Luce's photos, or when she saw Luce looking at Amity, you know, all these little moments where Camila is reconciling with her own guilt, right? And so I love that we're finally getting this moment where she's being open about her guilt, right? All of her guilt, especially with like these really heavy losses and stuff too. And it's in that vulnerability that like creates this space, right? Creates this space between Camila and Luce to allow for that understanding, which is just really, really beautiful. And I absolutely love this scene so much.
And also necessary. You know, I feel like I wouldn't go so far as to say it would feel hollow not to acknowledge these things from Camila's perspective, but
Right.
it definitely adds a lot. Um, Especially since like we see really nothing of Camila until well, you know, we see some of her in season 2, but really we see very little of her until the last episode, the last special. It's the most of her I feel like it's the most of her we've seen.
Yeah.
And yesterday's lie came before reaching out, didn't it? I'm not going crazy.
Yesterday's lie. No, yesterday's lie. Wait, reaching out. No,
Reaching
reaching out
out was
came
the
first.
one. Is that right?
Yeah, reaching out came
No,
first.
that's not. That can't be right because yesterday's lie is when V is introduced properly, right?
Yeah.
And reaching out, we see Slug V in that episode when Camila's putting the flower in the pot.
Oh, you're right. You're right. You're totally right.
So, like, the full perspective of what their family dynamic even is, we actually didn't even know
Yeah,
in
that's true.
really
Yeah.
properly when we saw her in season 2. Like, it isn't. We don't get a better picture of things until season 3. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I like seeing things from her perspective.
Yeah.
Often in
Me
these
too.
cases, like the you know, how much time does she have to grieve? How much time did she have to grieve?
Right.
You know,
Absolutely.
when she's got a kid to feed, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, in the chat of that episode, of that Gwendolyn episode, someone mentioned that Luce would recognize the pyramid scheme. Oh, that's a good point, Robin. I didn't even make that connection. That's a really good point. Oh my gosh, that's funny. And yeah, that's a good point too, that they do often target minority communities and Latino communities, and also women too, right? Like women, we talked about it in that episode too, with the reaching out episode, or sorry, not the reaching out, the Gwendolyn episode, the name I'm forgetting right now. But we talked, right, about how older women in particular tend to be more susceptible to those kind of schemes. And Camila is definitely an older woman. So yeah, I think it's a good point. I didn't even make that connection. But yeah, I totally agree with you, Tom. Like, I love that we're getting Camila's perspective on these events, because it just sort of adds to that mother-daughter dynamic, right? And again, it creates that space for that vulnerability and understanding that we get in this scene. And you know, Camila, we saw it in the first special, in the first season 3 special, and also a little bit in this special too, right? Where like she is still very hesitant about like being her own true authentic self too, right? Because we know that like when she was her full nerdy Star Trek geek self, she was like bullied and, you know, shunned by her classmates and peers and everything, right? Like we know that that's a trauma that she has had, and because of that experience that she's had, she's like tried to correct Luce on that, right? Like instead of letting Luce fully embrace that, she's like kind of projected her own experiences onto Luce, right? So no, you have to like change who you are in order to fit in, right? Because that's what I had to do, without the understanding, right, of like, no, that's not how to make friends, right? And so I love that we have this moment now with Camila where she is not only fully embracing her mistakes, but she is embracing like the parts of herself that she's embracing all the parts of herself that she was ashamed of, right? Like even the parts that she should really love about herself, her full Star Trek nerdy geeky side as well too, right? And I love
With
that
her
this moment she does
watermelon crushing thighs.
exactly. And I love that this moment she embraces herself fully, right? Like she embraces her mistakes, she embraces her guilt, she embraces her shame, and she embraces her Star Trek geekery, right? The astral oath
And then
is something I
yeah, which is
forgot.
just it's just the prime directive.
Yeah, exactly, right? The astral oath. Captain Avery and his family said that essentially us weirdos got to stick together, right? That's essentially what Captain Avery said, right? But no matter what, we accept people as who they are, right? And we love them for who they are. And I love that, Luce even has this line here where she's like, "Mom, are you a secret nerd?" Like it's this moment of bonding and understanding between these two that's just like so beautiful. Um and like in Luce finally fully understanding her mom, that allows her mom to understand her as well, right? And this is just such a beautiful moment of true understanding between both of these characters, right? Camila saying,
Mm,
"I went through what you went through. I had a hard time growing up too, and I made these mistakes, right? I didn't do this right with you, and now I know.
yeah.
Now that I know, I'm going to correct that mistake, right?" Um
Mm,
and this is just so beautiful. I just have to say too, like, and we got at the beginning of the special, Luce's palisman is going to hatch when she finally like knows herself, right? Like what she wants, what her goals are.
yeah.
And I just think this is such a beautiful moment because this is something that Luce has been going through since the beginning of the show, right? She has always felt misunderstood. She has always felt like no one understood her, got her, and that's like why she ran away to the Boiling Isles, right? Because she didn't feel like her mom understood her. Um and so like this search for understanding is something that Luz has been in search for since the beginning of the show, right? And she found that with Ida, and she found that with King, and she found that with her friends at the Boiling Isles. Um, but the reality is that like we kind of need it from our families, right? Like we need to be understood by the people that love us, because otherwise there's just kind of a wall in between. And I love this moment so much because I talked a lot about in previous streams, and I talked about this a lot in our amphibious streams. But I love how these cartoons these days, these modern cartoons, really show adult characters and parents as like these three-dimensional characters with flaws and motivations and arcs that they have to overcome and go through, right? And so yeah, I just really love that Camila has her own arc here that's parallel with Luce's arc, and how this kind of moment of understanding between the two of them is what allows the palisman to come to life as well. And this is such a beautiful moment for the palisman as well too, because like, Ida was the mom figure that was there with Luce, who helped her carve the palisman, and now Camila is there as a mom figure with Luce as the palisman hatches. And yeah, it's a really nice parallel in that way too. And the scene is also beautifully animated. I absolutely teared up at this moment. Like it's just so beautiful and so powerful. And for me, as someone who relates a lot to Luce as a character, something that I never really got as a kid was like understanding from
Mm.
the adults in my life, especially my family. And I never knew that that's something that I was missing though. It's like when you go through your life with like,
Not realizing that you're starved of a certain
yeah,
kind of attention. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Like you don't necessarily realize like how actually fundamentally important that kind of attention, that kind of love is necessary for like building your self-confidence and like growing into a healthy, well-adjusted adult. Something that I realized as I grew up was that like I have a lot of like internal struggle that I deal with because of the fact that like I just wasn't understood as a child because like just people didn't get what I was going through, get my struggles, get my and you know, to be fair, I didn't really understand what I was going through as a kid as well. Like no one really does. So of course, like, you know, you can't expect your parents to be perfect, but you know, I love that we are getting this moment in this show to kind of like highlight that for kids nowadays, right? Like feeling seen and understood. Like your parents can love you and your parents can take care of you, your parents can do everything, sacrifice for you and everything, but like having this understanding and having this like this shared kind of like, I don't know the word I'm looking for, but just having this understanding is so important to just healthy upbringing and also just the way that these
Yeah.
relationships develop, right? And so I love that we're getting this complex, you know, flawed relationship kind of displayed through this show and how it is how it's like rectified, right? How it's resolved through coming to a mutual understanding. I just think that that's really powerful and really beautiful and
Mm.
definitely tugged at my heartstrings, definitely got me to tear up at this moment. It's just really 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 beautiful and kind of the pinnacle for Luz's character too, right?
Look at our big old peepers.
Her big round eyes and the beautiful lighting and the tears. It's just beautiful. I love it so much. Um Yeah, absolutely agree too. And that Lucis declaration and the delivery was amazing. Shout out to Sarah Nicole Robles, Lucis voice actor, who just did an amazing job here. I love that Luz saying all she wants is to be understood, especially with her being bi and GNC. Yeah, absolutely, Shadow. Like, I feel like this works on so many levels, right? Like Luz being queer, Luz being neurodivergent, you know, again, Luz being sort of like functionally non-binary within the story, right? If we want to talk about the binary between human and witch, like Luz is very much non-binary in that way, right? And so she's
The two
always had
genders.
the two genders are witch and human, exactly. And so Luz is like this person who just like doesn't fit in a box, right? No matter where you try to put her. And so like when you don't necessarily fit in these boxes in that way, like it's even more imperative
Yeah.
to be understood by your loved ones and your peers because like when you don't feel like you fit in traditional society, like you end up feeling like an outcast, right? And it affects your self-esteem, it affects the way you see yourself, it affects the way you interact with the world. And you know, I learned all of this through my time in therapy, honestly, like figuring out how these struggles like affected me and my upbringing, right? And so yeah, I just love that
Dang, you went to therapy? Lucky.
I'm not anymore for right now, but at least for a while I did have to. But yeah, I totally agree. Magical. It's a really important scene that lots of people need to see and hear. Totally, totally agree. Um, Having a parent in fiction actually say, "I pressured you to conform out of a misguided attempt to protect you, but it just hurt you and it was wrong of me," means so much to me. 100% agree, Robin. 100% agree. Ed says, I relate to that with my parents. Same here, dude. Same here.
I don't know
Um,
why. I don't know why, but all of this is making me think of the movie Inception, which is a
why?
film a film that I do not like Inception at all. It's not a film I like. I don't like Christopher Nolan as a director. I think he makes really sterile movies.
Sure.
But the weird thing is that like the last film acclaimed British actor Pete Postlethwaite ever starred in was Inception, and he was
Yeah.
literally on his deathbed. Pete Postlethwaite is an actor I very much like, so
Yeah.
like seeing him in that movie, and in the movie he's literally on his deathbed because that's pretty much where his health was at.
Right.
And there's a scene in that. It's like the only scene in the movie that's worthwhile. When his son says to him, "You were disappointed in me because I couldn't be like you," and he says, "No, I was disappointed in you because or I was disappointed that you tried." And then
Mm.
he gives him this like terrible children's drawing that he made
Ugh.
decades ago that he kept for all these years, and it's like the only worthwhile scene in the entire film. For some reason, that's what's floating around in my head right now.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I see the parallels. um yeah, definitely too. I think it's relatable for a lot of us for sure. Shadow asked, did you hear Luce's VA say that the hardest she's ever cried was recording the final special? We're not ready. Oh my gosh, that is probably gonna make me cry too. Yeah, I'm afraid as well.
Well,
Magical.
it's always going to be emotional leaving these kinds of
Of
projects
course,
behind.
yeah, I'm gonna cry regardless because it's the last episode. So,
God,
but yeah,
crying is not
really,
guaranteed for me, but I would like to.
yeah. Really, but yeah, really, really beautiful scene, really powerful scene. I absolutely adored this moment. I think again, it's kind of the pinnacle for Luce's character in the show. And I think it's a really beautiful moment with the palisman hatching and everything. So yeah, I really adored this scene. I think like this was probably the best scene, my favorite scene in the special. Because
Yeah.
Camila was my favorite part of the special. So, this absolutely took the cake for me. And yeah, really kudos to the whole crew. And I saw, I apologize that I can't remember which artist keyframed this moment, but I did see them post on Twitter about it and just want to give them a shout out as well, because this is a very beautiful moment. I absolutely love this frame, this scene, right? This little moment with Luce holding her heart and her eyes tearing up. And I am calling conspiracies right now just because I'm a crazy person, but I see the two little highlights in her eyes are pink and blue. So that means that Luce is trans, confirmed.
Confirmed. You heard it here
Confirmed.
first.
You heard it here first. Luce is trans.
Half-Life 3 confirmed. That's an old meme. I don't know
That
why
is a
I
very
said
old meme.
that.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, let's go ahead and wrap this up for now. Was there anything else that you wanted to say before we wrap things up?
Just that Luce's face and shape language is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I love everything about it.
Yeah.
She's so round. She's got the little monkey ears.
The
Big
round
fan of the
ears.
monkey ears. Monkey ears, you can never go wrong with monkey ears. They're like one of the cutest things to put on a character.
Yeah.
Just give them
Yeah.
little monkey ears. Or do whatever they do with JP. His ears aren't really ears. They're more like
His like 3 shaped ears. Yeah.
they're like lips on the side of his head.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
yeah,
I love
Luce is
Lucy's
great.
little monkey ears.
We
And
love
her
her.
round little face. So squishy.
I know, she's so round. I love how round her eyes are, her faces, her ears are. She's like just friend shaped, right? She's absolutely friend shaped.
Friend shaped.
Yeah, we love Luce. The glow, yeah, the lighting in this scene is really beautiful too. Yeah, just gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous all around. Absolutely the highlight of the episode for me. Yeah, so next week we'll continue on. I maybe should have. So my plan was for this. I wanted to make this scene actually the scene with Luce glowing. I wanted to make this the background, but whoops, what just happened? But I was thinking. I got the scenes kind of mixed up between the orders of what exactly happened. So maybe next week I'll make that the background and have this Willow scene as the background for this one, even though that happens later in the special.
You just gotta follow your heart. You've got to commit to the swamp.
Commit to the swamp, guys. If you take anything away from our discussion streams, if you take any piece of information away, if you forget everything that we talk about and nothing else, I hope you at least remember to commit to the swamp.
If Hinataka Miyazaki can commit to the swamp, even though he knows everyone hates it,
just commit.
You just gotta commit sometimes, Like I commit to the joke. I don't care how unfunny the joke is. I commit to it anyway.
Exactly. Gotta respect it. Respect the swamp.
Yeah, that's what you gotta do in this life of ours.
Alrighty, y'all. Well, we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up for today. Thank you all so much again for hanging out. Yeah, the scrunklo word again, Shadow, exactly. Yes, thank you, Magical, again for hanging out, and thank you again for all the technical issues. I have no idea why that happened, but thanks for finding. Oh gosh, what just happened? Okay, my screen froze for a second, but we're back. Anyway, so yeah, we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. Thank you all again for hanging out and for all your patience with the technical issues. We'll be back again next week, and we'll finish talking about these last few scenes of the special, and we'll wrap it up there. Eventually, we'll go back to talking about She-Ra. I don't know when that's going to happen, just because I have a lot going on in my life right now, but I am determined to get back to it. I really do want to finish talking about that show as well. What else? Yeah, that's it really. If you hang out next week, we'll finish talking about it, and we'll go from there. And Tom is working on a video right now, right? So if you're not subscribed, make sure that you are subscribed. All right, let's just go ahead and end it here, because I think we're also having more technical issues. All right, thanks everyone. We'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.